and it's 10:32.
Right. I'm telling you, I've been there.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
You look radiant. I love the glasses. I love the head wrap.
Thank you very much.
She got her Erykah Badu going today.
She does. That was my very bad Erykah Badu.
Blakey Cubano up with us on a Saturday morning. I love it.
Every time his comments come up on the screen, that profile picture makes me so happy.
Yeah. Yep.
Blake, can you put in the comments the name of that child and the age?
Put what now?
In the comments, the name of the child and the age.
Oh. Blake.
The baby.
The baby.
I guess I ruffle feathers every time I talk about God's gender. But I mean,
wait, so like you when you were 2?
I'm assuming he means his son. Who's also
okay.
Yeah. Hey, Ariana.
Hello, Ariana.
Ariana, I will likely be in your neck of the woods the last weekend of June. Headed up to Detroit to visit Jarrell.
Oh yeah, today is live to the general public. Let's share this, everybody. I just thought about that. Let's make sure we share it. Because I forgot. This is the first season we're doing stuff for the general public on the live recording. So it's like, I forget half the time. Grayson had to remind me that we were doing this live for the general public. He hit me up like Thursday. He said, is this episode live for the general public? I was like, nah, it's not. He said, are you sure? I went back and checked the schedule I created. I said, oh yeah, it is.
So this morning, I'm in Lake Guntersville State Park in Alabama for a family reunion. So family was like, hey, we're making breakfast. Want to come over? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I can get breakfast, but I have a church thing. So we had to walk from my dad and I are in like the main lodge, and then they have a cabin like out off the lodge. That's probably a 10-minute walk. So we walk down there, open up my laptop, no Wi-Fi. So then I have to hustle it back. So y'all are lucky you got me.
We are lucky, Grayson. We're so lucky to have you.
The only place I like to be with no Wi-Fi is on a cruise. So like every cruise I go on, I never buy the Wi-Fi package.
Same.
I tell my mama when I get there, I'd be like, hey sis, I'm here. I turn my phone off. If anything happens on them 7 days, they'll still be done happen when I come back. And when I get back to the earth, stateside, I turn back on and be like, all right, we're leaving. Be in the back. Yeah.
Let's see.
I don't know if I've ever been anywhere without Wi-Fi since it became a necessity for work. Hey, Mom.
Tony.
Looking radiant.
That's the word I was thinking.
That's my mama. Yeah, everybody go ahead and share it. You can hit the share button on this one.
Speaking of mamas,
go ahead and share it.
Last night, they weren't sure if I was coming to this reunion today or tomorrow, or yesterday or today. And my mom was talking to my dad, and she was like, I'm so tired. I went and had a massage, and I'm just crawling into bed. And then my dad was like, and Grayson's here. And she went, hey,
I love Pam Esther. I
And I was
love.
like, the love for your husband is in short supply.
I love Pam Esther. Oh man, I love it. So everybody, we're waiting on Kervance. He was having some technical difficulties. He's a part of the cast today. It's going to be the three of us and Kervance. So when he jumps back on, we're going to go ahead and start the official recording. I see Autumn is here. Rich Auntie, what up?
No, she's ghetto fab now. That's what she said. The photos that she submitted for Real Talk, she said something about we like ghetto fab, or apologies for the pictures, but ghetto fab's our vibe.
Listen, who came up with that title? Church gays are the worst gays.
It wasn't me.
That I love it.
That she submitted for Real Talk, she said that's me. Shut up. No. For the pictures, but ghetto fab's our vibe. Who came up?
It's something about mamas when they babies be around, the voice go up and everything. It's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very true, Tony. Very true. I would imagine.
Autumn came up with it. Church gays. I saw that and laughed so hard, and it was like only somebody from the community could do that particular topic.
Mm-hmm. It was intentional.
Oh God. All right, so today we're starting this series on Christian cancel culture, and this should be pretty fun. We're doing 3 straight episodes. Today we're talking about language. This one's open to the general public. Next time we come back, we're going to talk about how Christian cancel culture is trying to apply itself to critical race theory, and then and then after that, the last installment will be about how Christian cancel culture applies to rituals, how Christianity attempts to cancel other people's rituals. So that's going to be this series. Shout out to whoever is joining us now. Shout out to our patrons who are with us for all of the live episodes. For those of you who are part of the general public and you're like, oh, this would be cool. I would like to be a part of this more. I would like to engage and support in any way that I can. The way you do that is by joining us on Patreon. So what you're experiencing today is what we do on Patreon throughout every season. So we record live. We add our patrons' comments to the screen many times. Our patrons will ask questions or drop comments that will completely shift the trajectory of the discussion. It's happened a number of times. Ariana is a main culprit. Josh Carpenter is another person that does that frequently to us. It's like, ooh, did y'all see what Ariana put in the chat? Did y'all see what Josh put in the chat? We need to talk about that. So that is what we're doing here. You can join us on Patreon. Can we get that graphic up, Cody? So, of course, you get the exclusive content, live recordings. We also give out cigars if you want to be a part of the cigar club, apparel, and then we are currently in the works on the Holy Smokes Mobile, and I'm so excited about it. We're going to have more information about the Holy Smokes Mobile coming very soon, but it's going to be like a mobile cigar lounge that will be dedicated to Holy Smokes. And all patrons will get a discount on use of the Holy Smokes Mobile. So, yeah, it's going to be cool. All right. So we're going to give Kervance a couple more minutes. Yes. Yeah, and Ariana, thank you. I mean, it's $5 a month, y'all, to get in. I mean, hopefully not everybody's budget is that tight. I've been there where I was talking to Pamela about it the other day. We went out during the week, had a good time. And while we were sitting there, I said, remember what our life looked like 6 years ago? She was like, yep. Every weekend, Pamela and I had $20 total for the both of us. And we would have to make a decision what we were going to do with that $20 because that was all we had allotted. So I understand that sometimes budgets are tight. I get it. But if you got $5 in the budget, go ahead and join us on Patreon. Support the work. Support the work. If it's been a blessing to you, go ahead and support it. God Music and Holy Smokes Mobile are this year's countdowns for me. Yes, same here. All right, so let me get everybody up to speed with what we're doing for the show today. So we're talking about language. When we get into these introductions, when we start like the actual recording, we're going to ask an introduction question. Have you ever canceled anybody and why? So I want you to think about that. I'll preface that a little bit with what I mean by cancel, but that's going to be the introduction question for everybody. And then we're going to get into this conversation about how, Christian cancel culture has been around for a really long time, but we just haven't had a name for it. And it's been much more, dare I say, diabolical. Is that a bad word to use? Hey, Mel. It's been much more diabolical and many times insidious as well. So we'll get into that, talk about where have we seen Christianity attempt to cancel people's language, ask the question, maybe like any ideas of why the church works so hard to control people's language. And then just really think about what messages we want people to walk away with today from this episode is the whole idea. So still trying to get Curvance in here. Thank y'all for y'all patience this morning. This is actually our normal time. Sure, we're going to get it in just a second.
Well, I'm on that old Central Time, so y'all are lucky I remembered.
Grayson, we are so lucky today.
I'm just telling you how blessed you should feel.
We are so lucky today.
Just count your stars.
Thank you, Mother God, for gracing us with the blessing of Grayson this morning.
And Tierney's here too.
Right.
Tierney Badu.
I'll do what I can.
Where'd you get your earrings?
Unfortunately, I got these.
For what?
It took me a while. Tierney Badu.
Oh.
But you're not like, on the same vibe you were on earlier this week.
No.
Yeah.
He had left it right.
Listen, earlier this week, when we recorded, what show did we record earlier this week?
Privileged Perspective.
Yes, Church Misogyny. Grayson had 5 puns backstage before we even went live. Kingmaker.
Yo, is that better?
Hold on. We can see you way better. Say something again.
Test.
Okay. All right. We in there. Good deal. All right. Again, if you're with us today, go ahead and share this. Let somebody know. If you've been telling people about the podcast and you've been saying you got to check this out, here's a great opportunity to share it with them. You can share it on your main page. You can share the link with somebody in a private text or in a private message. But please do share this. We're doing this exactly how we do it with the Patreon community. So I'm in a second here. We're going to get started with the official recording. Notes real quick. When you have comments, we want to put them on the screen. Just make sure you keep them to under 3 lines because really long comments are hard to get on the screen without obstructing the view. So please make sure you keep them brief so that we can get them on the screen and we can add those comments into the conversation. Anybody on the team got any questions before we get started? No? We're good? Okay. Josh Carpenter.
I don't have a question, but I do have an observation. I just realized I'm just an hour from Alabama A&M right now.
Yes, Gunnersville, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Used to ride through Gunnersville all the time.
Oh yeah.
Coming to Atlanta.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Absolutely. Okay, we're gonna do a 30-second countdown. So I need everybody to mute your mics, and we're gonna get started with this recording. Good peoples. Cody, I'm gonna put him up here because I'm gonna have him introduce himself first. I'm gonna go down the list. All right, 9 seconds. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Holy Smoke, Cigars, and Spirituality. We're here today beginning our series of episodes about Christian cancel culture. And we're starting off today with a discussion about language. How has Christian cancel culture applied to the use of language? And this should be fun because we talked about this a little bit in our monthly meetup as a Holy Smokes community. And not everybody understood exactly what we meant when they saw the title. So it's going to be interesting to see how this conversation takes shape today. I have some great people from the team here with me. We got the Kingmaker, we got AT&T, we got the Pundit. So excited today to have everybody here. Shout out to everybody who is in the live virtual audience today. We did this one for the general public. So shout out to you for being here. And to those who are listening after the fact on the podcast platforms, thank you for listening. All right, so I want to go ahead and just get straight into it because that's what we do. And the conversation is going to be rich. And I don't want to spend too much time with preliminaries, but we got to give you the one rule. We got to give you that. And today I have a very special person that's going to give us the one rule. Tyranny, all the things. Jordan, can you give us the one rule today, please?
Of course, here at Holy Smokes, we only have one rule, and that one rule is that we honor and respect each other's lived experiences.
We want to. You gotta no. You gotta say that one more time for the people in the back.
For the people in the back, the one rule is that we honor each other's lived experiences.
And we got to do it one more time for the people in the overflow. Give it to them for one more again.
Yes, overflow.
In the fellowship hall, I want you to understand that we have one rule, and it is that we honor each other's lived experiences. Here at Holy Smokes, we do not want to uplift theories over what people have actually lived. And so that is our one rule here. This rule is rooted in Greatest Commandment theology, which Christian curated himself. And it says that your love for God is displayed through how you love your neighbor, which is an extension of how you love yourself. Therefore, you can't fully love God if you don't love your neighbor, and you can't fully love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. And this is rooted in Matthew 22:34-30 in, the Bible, if you want to go and read for yourself. But yes, that is the one rule that we have here at Holy Smokes.
She said, the Bible. Appreciate it, T. Appreciate it. Absolutely. One rule is very important here. Also, if you haven't heard, I wrote a book about it. And I'm going to tell you what's really funny. When you're rethinking a lot of information and unlearning and deconstructing and reconstructing, you need a lot of sources to help you work through that. You need community to help you work through that. So sometimes when I refer people to my book, they get offended, like I'm trying to blow them off. And I'm like, no, I can't give you my entire theology in a Facebook post. That's why I published a book about it. So if you're really interested,
books aren't sources.
Don't do that, Grayson. You're being messy. I appreciate it, though. I appreciate that kind of message.
Yeah, I asked you for a source, and you gave me 10 books. Like I was looking for something different.
Right. Books are primary sources in case the world didn't know. So yeah, please go check out Breaking All the Rules. You can get it on my website, christianasmith.com. That's where you can learn all about greatest commandment theology. I believe anybody who is going through a phase of deconstructing and reconstructing your faith, you want to have this in your toolkit. I just truly believe that, and that's the feedback that I've received from a lot of people who have read it. So please go pick up Breaking All the Rules. Okay, let's get into some introductions. You've already heard everybody's voice, but we're going to do a little introduction here. And today I want you to tell us, what are you smoking and or drinking? And then, have you ever canceled anybody and why? Let me tell you what I mean by cancel, because that particular word has been used in so many different ways over the past few years. So when I'm asking this question right now, have you ever canceled anybody? I'm just asking, have you ever cut somebody off from your life? Like, I am not supporting this person with my dollars. I'm not exposing myself to their content. I no longer want to be in relationship with them in that way. That's what I mean by that. Cancel somebody. I'm not asking you, did you go out and beat somebody up? Did you take out a hit on somebody? I just mean you canceled them from your life. Yes, Timothy Carruthers, I'm smoking in the house. Yes, I am. So this is what we're going to do. I'll start. Again, I'm Christian. I'm the host. I'm the heretic, the proud pastor of the faith community, ATL. Today, I'm hanging out with my girlfriend, Fat Bottom Betty. You know, she never does me wrong. She's always been faithful. And then I'm having some water today in my Mercer mug. So shout out to my peeps over at Mercer McAfee School of Theology. Me and Grayson are repping today. And have I ever canceled anybody and why? Yes. I canceled a bunch of people who will remain nameless because of how they mishandled my mama after my daddy passed. It's about 50 to 100 people who no longer exist to me because of how they handled my mama. Because you don't mistreat my mama and try to stay in relationship with me. So yes, I don't communicate with those people. Yes.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
What's the clarifying question?
So when you say mistreat, just like didn't extend enough care, and you don't have to go into it, but I'm just curious
Sure.
if you feel like it.
Yeah, so not only didn't extend enough care, but like removed care, like actively attacked my mother's finances and character and reputation. So yes, they're canceled. That's just, and I have not done anything to harm any of those people, but they just don't have any space in my life anymore. So that's what I mean by I canceled them for me personally. Let's kick it over. Kingmaker, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what's the answer to that introduction question.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. I am Purvance Ross, the Kingmaker. I am excited because I get a chance to smoke my sponsorship stick on a Saturday morning. You might not be watching this on Saturday, but whenever you are doing it, my sponsorship here in the city, it's a hand roll sweet Maduro. I'm drinking some 1792 bourbon whiskey here. And I also am drinking the Lord's tequila in H2O and enjoying it. When it comes down to cancel culture, I have canceled somebody. And to be honest with you, I canceled a family member. I had a cousin who I before when I became a sophomore in high school. It was about ninth grade. I was a freshman, sophomore. And he was about the fifth grade. And his mom told me to kind of take responsibility for him. He looked up to me, grew up in the inner city, and we were good. And all of a sudden, he started matriculating. He went and got his master's. I cheered for him, watched him develop, watched him grow. And when he got ready to get his doctorate, we flew up to go check him out, support him. And y'all, I asked him a critical question that I would think anybody getting this degree would know. Is this a doctorate or is it a PhD? And he said, What do you mean? They're all the same. I said, your doctor can write the prescription, or your PhD, you create the theory that teaches the people who write the prescription. Yeah, I think I know what I'm doing. I'm the only person in the room with the PhD. So, I think you need to understand that I've worked hard, and the fact that you're trying to question me and tell me what I've worked on is problematic for me. He went on after he got his degree to regularly throw, I don't look up to you no more because I'm the one with the PhD. And you gonna respect it took a whole different turn to the point that he disrespected even my staff, because one of my gifts to him was to give him a logo. And he literally called me and said, at this point, all you've accomplished, you haven't gotten a PhD, so you haven't accomplished much. As we had shifted in our faith, and he needed to be canceled immediately. And that was about 7 years ago. And he's been canceled and doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you just felt the need to throw it in your face, huh? Interesting. Curvance and I have had this debate. And I'm gonna go ahead and put it out here. My understanding, PhD is the highest level of doctoral degree. But like a PhD is a doctorate. It's just the highest level of doctorate degree. Am I right? Am I wrong?
You're wrong on that one, Doc. Yeah.
So tell me, somebody help me out then.
So a PhD is the individual who studies the theory, the teaching behind the concept of.
But isn't a PhD a doctorate though?
It is. It's a doctor of philosophy, PhD.
It's a philosophy. The other side of it is
you're breaking up. You're breaking up, Ross.
Is it any better?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the doctorate, look at this as the person who actually operates in the field and can write the prescription for what they have studied from the PhD in theory. So your physician is a doctorate.
An MD.
A MD. But the person who taught the theory that your physician carries out is the philosopher of that doctorate.
Right. Yeah, it's still a doctorate. It's just a different type of doctorate, right?
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not a hierarchy.
Got you.
You're right.
It's not a hierarchy.
It's a different type of doctorate.
It's a different type of doctorate. Got you. Yeah.
Cody is very passionately saying in all caps, both are doctors.
Right. Both are doctors.
Right.
But some people like lift up their doctorate above everybody else's. Like, oh, I got this doctorate, so I'm better than everybody else because you ain't got what I got.
Well, the challenge is some people don't know that there's a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Let's keep going. Grayson, what are you smoking and or drinking, if anything? And have you canceled anybody and why?
Well, speaking as hopefully a future PhD, and Tierney, hopefully, Tierney can say the same thing, and hopefully that will be true for both of us.
I'm gonna let y'all have that PhD stuff. Y'all go be great.
There's another degree that you might have canceled for yourself, a D-Min, Christian.
I haven't canceled the D-Min. That PhD is just too much pressure. Yeah, I'm not cut out for it, but I believe in y'all. I really do. The 3 people here with me today, I believe in y'all to do it, but I'm not gonna make it.
Well, thank you. So as a future, the highest of the doctors, the doctor of the doctors, I am Grayson Hester. Yeah, Josh, arrogance is a bad look. I'm totally kidding. I don't want to be that kind of academic. But Josh, current PhD candidate. So we've got a lot in this call. But I am Grayson Hester, pundit, pronouns he, him, coming at y'all from Lake Guntersville State Park in Alabama, an hour from, I don't know if y'all know this, he never talks about it, but Christian actually went to Alabama A&M, and so did Curvance. They never mention it. But I'm about an hour from Normal, Alabama.
Normal's Hill. Come on, man.
Alabama,
rich in heritage divine. Get me started.
Grayson, what did you do here? What did you do?
I'm just so in chaos. So yes, I'm here for a family reunion, but happy to be here with y'all, my Atlanta family. And I'm not drinking anything except just from some nice hotel coffee. So we've got the best of the best here. Not smoking anything, and canceling people. So we haven't mentioned celebrities. So I want to say I have very much canceled the unfortunately deceased J.K. Rowling. Such a shame when she died a few years ago. Love Harry Potter. Love everything that Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling have meant for my childhood. I haven't canceled Harry Potter, but I have certainly canceled Just Kidding Rowling. She died a few years ago, and that's just how it goes. And I think I half canceled Jussie Smollett after whatever it was that happened with him. Just a huge betrayal of trust.
Juicy Smoothie.
Juicy, that's it. I was trying to remember what Dave Chappelle called him.
Juicy Smoothie.
And for those of y'all who don't know, well, J.K. Rowling, very transphobic. She's what we know as a TERF, a trans exclusionary radical feminist who is so committed to one idea of femininity and womanhood that trans people, trans women in particular, seem to pose a threat to that. Which is just bad feminism in general. So that's what she did. And then, of course, Juicy Smoothie, did the whole probably maybe staged an attack by two large Nigerian men putting a noose around his neck and oil. Was it gasoline too? I don't remember, but it turned out to be likely a fraud. And that's just cynical, and I hate it that he did that. So kind of canceled him while still holding on to hope that maybe it wasn't true. Personally, I'm fortunate that I haven't had to cancel too many family members or really any of them due to me, being gay and all the things that I do. But there's been a lot of guys who have stood me up or have ghosted me, and ghosting because they're dead to me now, I guess. So don't want to name names, but it happens. The dating world is savage. So yeah.
Thank you, Grayson. I appreciate that. You brought up a very interesting point that sometimes you can cancel a person without canceling their artwork. Like we've gone through that with a lot of people in the Black community, like Bill Cosby after what happened with him, and all these different feelings. It's like, so if I'm not going to support like Bill Cosby, the person, anymore for his actions or how I perceive them, does that mean I have to cancel the Cosby Show? I emphatically said no. I am not canceling the Cosby Show. I love the Cosby Show. It will always be a part of my life.
Is this a good time to insert R. Kelly?
Yes. Well, actually, I don't know if inserting R. Kelly is ever a good thing, but we can talk about him.
Fantastic. Before we go any further, let's not even tyranny. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness. Okay, bring myself back together. Hello, I am Tierney. They call me AT&T on the podcast because I be doing all the things. I am not smoking or drinking anything today. And so as far as canceling people, I have had to cancel all of my family members who do not think that my ministry is valid because I'm female, to double hockey sticks with those people because we don't need them and their negative energy around these parts. So yeah, that's who I've had to cancel. They don't show up on my Facebook, my Instagram. I don't talk to them. They don't exist because why? No. So yeah, that's me. And that's who I've had to cancel.
That was such a tyranny statement. I'm so glad you're just authentically yourself, because that's exactly how I would expect you to say that. And
Because
sometimes,
I know.
yeah, and sometimes you gotta like cut people off to protect your own peace. Like you don't owe everybody a piece of yourself, and sometimes you gotta cut people off to protect your peace. So, hey, do what you gotta do, sis. Okay, we're about to get into this Christian cancel culture as far as language is concerned. But first, we got to give you the cigar tip. And today, we're going to invite you to the Kingmakers Cigar Corner. Give this music.
You really got to appreciate music and a photo like that. I'm excited, glad to be with you. Happy Saturday or whatever day you find yourself in. The cigar tip is one that many of us overlook or don't realize is necessary. The truth of it is, some cigar smokers puff too often. Say it again. Some cigar smokers puff too often. This is a mistake for a few reasons, because philosophically, a cigar is about enjoyment and savoring the moment. You can almost look at the size and gauge of your cigar and connect it to the time that you should use to smoke. An hour, 90 minutes, something of that style. You need to take your time and slow down. This is almost like an intimate encounter. It's best enjoyed slow, and a perfectly constructed cigar is made to burn slow. So the tip for today, take some self-care when you're smoking your cigar. Don't rush. Don't rush. This is the don't rush cigar tip. Slow down and enjoy, because it's meant to be enjoyed slow. It's your main man, the Kingmaker. This has been your cigar tip of the day.
That was so smooth.
Yeah, nah, I had to slow down to tell you about it, so it's important.
That was like your after hours radio show. The smooth.
Oh yeah.
one day we're gonna have Curvance do his skit on how he would do the after hours DJ. It's hilarious. It's one of the funniest things you will ever see or hear. Okay, because he Atlanta, like through and through, Bankhead, like Southwest, SWATs, like, ooh, you got to hear it one day. Okay, Christian cancel culture and language. This one is really important. And I think for us to frame it properly, we got to take a look at what cancel culture is, and then how do we tie Christianity into this. So cancel culture, as it has as it has been understood recently, is birthed out of Black Twitter. Actually, for those who don't know what Black Twitter is, like Black people on Twitter tend to start trends. Like a lot of trends that come out of Twitter start with Black people. And this whole idea of being canceled came out of Black Twitter when somebody did something in the public eye that many people deemed problematic. And yes, problematic is a relative term, which is a part of cancel culture, why it has become so divisive and polarizing. But, somebody would do something. We talked about R. Kelly a minute ago. R. Kelly got canceled by a lot of people because of who he was as a person, or who he is as a person. And it was very hard trying to separate who he was as a person from his artistry, because he's one of the greatest music artists of our generation, period. But he was also doing some crazy stuff, allegedly. I mean, and I believe it, but it's allegedly. So that's where it came from. It basically said, we're not supporting this person anymore. We're not going to uplift this person anymore. We're not going to consume their content anymore, just based on principle. That's how cancel culture started. Now it's being appropriated and turned into something totally different. And the church and like a lot of people who label themselves as conservative are trying to flip it and cancel anything that doesn't uphold basically white supremacy when you boil it all down to, you know, the bare minimum. Basically anything that opposes white supremacy, it seems like people who label themselves as conservatives are trying to cancel that stuff. But actually, Christian cancel culture goes back a long time. Like it precedes Black Twitter, the internet. Christianity has been canceling stuff for generations. We can go all the way back, and we could go further back than this, but go back to Copernicus. I don't remember what century that was, but Copernicus was an astronomer, and he made the suggestion that, hey, y'all, I don't think the Earth is the center of the solar system. The sun is actually the center of the solar system, and Earth revolves around the sun. That was blasphemy in his day. That was heresy. And the church canceled him for it. Like he was prosecuted for suggesting what we all know to be true today, that the sun is the center of the solar system and the Earth revolves around it. But the issue there is that Christians always have to be right. Christians don't like to be challenged. So when he suggested that, they said, we got to silence this dude because we need everybody to hold on to the belief that the Earth is the center of everything. We are the center. And they canceled Copernicus. And it's been going on generation after generation after generation. But now we're here in this particular day and time, and I believe, and we all tend to believe, that Christians and Christianity is still canceling a lot of stuff. Today, we're going to talk about how Christianity attempts to cancel language. And I'll give you an example, because Christianity is constantly trying to monitor the words that people use. Like, don't say this, but you can say that. When a lot of times you're basically saying the same thing, you're just using a different term. But Christianity is uncomfortable with the term. I believe it was Jacques Derrida, who was a French philosopher, that says the people that control the language have the power. And I believe it's tied to that many times. We want to control the language that you use. For example, I have been doing a lot in my ministry about helping people to expand their view of God from a gender perspective, because we use gender language to refer to God. And traditionally in Christian settings, all you can say is he. And I'm saying, hey, there's other terms we can use. Like God doesn't have to be he. I'm not saying God isn't. I'm saying God doesn't have to be limited to he. God can be she. God can be they. God can be a number of different things. There's no limitation on what God can be. Like we're using our language to limit God. So when somebody says mother God or refers to God as she, here comes a great defender of the faith saying, you can't say that. No, God is a man and you have to say he. So they try to cancel your language. They try to cancel that use of language to suggest God can only fit into this language box that we have created for God. That's one example of Christian cancel culture and how it applies to language. T, do you have one you would share about how Christianity is canceling people's language?
Yeah, I had a thought about what you were just saying too. So I'll share that and then I'll share my point.
Yeah.
So I find it really interesting that we can call God El Shaddai, El Elohim, and all these other words that we in traditional church settings don't know what they mean or don't know what they came from based on what somebody told us. But the second we want to call God she or they, it's like, no, can't do that. But these other words that I don't understand, that's fine. Or whatever. But anyway, that's just really interesting to me. What came up for me as far as like controlling language is how in traditional church spaces, it's always been the no for cussing. So like no profanity can be used in any form of your life. And so how you need to be delivered from the cussing spirit and saved from the profanity so that you can be closer and in right relationship with God. And I just don't understand how me not using cuss words has anything to do with my relationship with God. Because sometimes y'all be doing dumb stuff and need some cuss words in response to the dumb stuff y'all be doing. So that's what came up for me.
Yeah, the profanity thing is something that we've talked about here as well. Words have power. I don't want to mistake that. Words have power, but words have the power we ascribe to them. So a cuss word can be harmful to somebody in one setting, but it may be a term of endearment in another setting, or it just may be a term of emphasis in another setting. But the church is like, no, don't cuss at all. And then what's funny is a lot of the people who are telling us not to cuss all the time. They just don't do it on the microphone. They don't do it in the pulpit. They don't do it at church. But you get them in another setting and they going off.
And it's odd to me that like the same pastors who would literally curse people by like condemning them to hell, like if that's not a curse, I don't know what is. Like they could be at the pulpit and be like, you divorced, you're have a spirit of homosexuality, you drank, you're condemned to eternal punishment. But then if he had, and everyone would be like, yeah, that sits well with me. But then if he had said, you fuckers are condemned to hell, they'd be like, oh no, he said a curse word in his curse, and that's what's offensive.
Right. Exactly. And Blake said he's taking off his cussing filter outside the house. Blake has been dropping them in the chat here. He said earlier that he's been canceling his church for a while. That's who he canceled. But thank you for bringing that up, Grayson. Do you have any examples of how Christianity has been trying to cancel people's language? We talked about pronouns for God. We talked about cussing. Anything you would add to that?
The first thing that came up for me, well, actually was cussing, but then Tyranny Badu took it. So the next thing, I had to scramble to find something else. And I think words not even around like sexuality, like homosexuality or hetero or queer or whatever, but even just sex itself. Like you can't say penis, you can't say vagina. Like we talk about sex without really talking about it. Like we literally beat around the bush. And I don't know, it's just weird that like the church is like, okay, so we have to have this sexual ethic. We have to, and in most churches, I would imagine it is, we have to instill abstinence. We have to instill, at least in the women and the gay people, waiting until marriage. But we can't do that because there's a reason why WAP was so offensive, right? So like we can talk about like, oh, well, your naughty bits, your private parts, the Lord's property, I don't know. But if we were to be like, talking about how sex actually works and how how God made our bodies to have the sex that we kind of don't talk about, then it's too much. Like if we talk about like, maybe we need some lubrication and vaginas are naturally lubricating. And if they're not, maybe you should seek some medical help, or maybe your husband isn't pleasing you enough. We can't talk about any of those specifics. So it's almost like we have this puppeteer sexuality where it's like we can only dance by the strings that are handed us. And the church hands us very few strings.
Puppeteer sexuality. That's a mic drop.
Grayson, that was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Puppeteer. That is stolen and you get no credit for it.
It's reparations. It's fine. It's been documented. Grayson said it first. Hey, people. Penis and vagina are scientific terms. Let's just chill. Like,
yes.
No. Hey, so the problem here is
you breaking up, bro.
Christianity that you operate in. So can you hear me? I hate this right now. Can you hear me better?
I know. Yeah, go ahead.
The problem with this is science and Christianity don't go together. So you can't say that.
But it shouldn't be like that's the problem. Why have we pit Christianity against science? Therein lies the problem. Like, because Christianity is not opposed to science and vice versa. We make up competitions. Go ahead, Grayson.
Yeah, my thing, and I've been talking a lot, but it's just like, okay, so the body parts that are located here, we have to be like, oh, it's wee, it's coochie, whatever that we call it, except for what it is. But then it's like, do you do the same thing for like your nose? Like, imagine if there was a stigma attached to that, like my like nasals, like my nay is stuffed. No one does that. So it's like, why do we teach kids that, like, and adults really, because what do kids grow up into? Like, that they can't say these certain words, but it's like, this is scientifically an arm. Like, we can call this an arm, but an arm does tons of sexual shit. Like a hand does tons of sexual shit. The brain is a sex organ. It's just that these sex organs are the ones that we have all of these cutesy names for.
Yep, absolutely. Jarrell just said, if science is seeking truth and Jesus is truth, why is the church at odds with science? Great question, Jarrell. Let's keep it going. Kervance Kingmaker, where have you seen church try to cancel people's language?
I'm having technical difficulties, so I'm hoping you all can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So I'm going to go a different route based off a conversation you and I had over a cigar yesterday. Language, by definition, is the primary form of human communication. One of the things that the church, for me, has canceled is communication of common sense. Because for some reason, in our communication, the church doesn't realize that one of the biggest language nuances is common sense. And because of how the church has commandeered their perspective based off of their culture and their point of view, if you apply common sense into that reality, they cancel it because common sense and Christianity don't seem to go together in communication. And I think it challenges people when you say something that you have said over and over again by subtracting common sense from factor. And then the person communicates common sense. And not only did they never tell you that common sense was canceled, but they will cancel you for using common sense. This is challenging because the church has a lot of belief systems that common sense would discredit. And even if we embrace the fact, and we talked about this yesterday, Christian, it's a common sense reality to embrace that God had intimacy with a 15 or 16-year-old without her knowing about it, and then gave birth to his omnipotent son. Now, I'm an embracer of this Christian concept. This is not what I'm arguing. The common sense is, if you're not a Christian, you embrace this as being fictitious or absurd. And for us to diminish people who don't think like us and have thought common sensely in their language is something that Christianity has canceled. And I think it creates a problem for us when we try to evangelize.
Yep. I had a conversation with a friend earlier this week who just threw out there that he had engaged somebody from a different faith tradition. And he said, like, yeah, they had this whole made up story about something. And, it's just he just like kind of brushed it off. And I, love my friend. I just said, wait a minute, because you said made up story, like, that was a sin or something. I was like, think about our stories in our faith. Like, they don't sound made up. Like, when you step back from your indoctrination, some of those stories don't sound made up. I'm not saying don't believe them, but I mean, when was the last time you saw somebody walk on water? I'm not saying Jesus didn't do it. I'm not saying that at all.
You just got to take in consideration that to the person who doesn't believe in its just normal format, common sense doesn't shake into that reality. It's the common sense of making wine spiritual for communion, but cognac is negative for regular consumption. It's still an alcoholic beverage. It's a fermented grape, but because you put it in a sacred ordinance, eliminating the European dynamic of how they see wine as opposed to how we see it in America. The reality is it is yet still wine. Right. So if you can drink it at the altar, I can surely drink it with my feet on the ottoman.
Right.
And I just don't think we are using the common sense in our reality.
And the sad thing is, this conversation would be canceled by a lot of Christians just for us saying that. Like, just us having this conversation is worthy of being canceled. The faith
community is a part of Christian cancel culture.
Absolutely. I got another one. The way we try to cancel language around seers and soothsayers. Right? We don't want
get me started on that. Don't get me started on that.
Like
I thought you meant the department store. Like, what seers do?
No, seers, like people who see things. And he wasn't even trying to get that one. He was just confused for real.
Like, Sears did a good enough job canceling themselves. When was the last time you saw one with people walking around inside?
Yeah. Like I preached this message about the slave girl in Acts. I think it was chapter 16 when Paul and Silas went to a town and there was a slave girl, and the narrator of the text says that she had a spirit of divination. And she was basically walking around telling everybody, hey, Paul and Silas, these guys really know God. You should listen to what they have to say because they're bringing the truth, which was an accurate statement. Like, that's really what they were coming to do. But because she had a spirit of divination, as opposed to being a prophetess, same activity, saying the same accurate stuff, but because she did it under a spirit of divination rather than the anointing of a prophetess, then we had to cancel it. But it's the same thing. We out here trying to tear down people who do the same thing the prophet does when they come to your church, when they call you out and say, all right, the last 4 digits of your phone number is 6724. Who is that? Come to the front right now. That's a soothsayer. That's a seer.
So,
but
Christian,
it's called prophet in
Christian,
church.
I think that passage also eliminates the common sense when it comes down to one of the translations in the Bible defines it as she had a python spirit. We don't think about the fact that that's a mythological dynamic. So we have inserted mythology into Christianity and tried to condemn somebody who was a prophet outside of our language. Anytime it doesn't fit our comfort zone, even though it's in our Bible, we can't think beyond that fact. And if this is a challenge, you've heard me say it before, a person who is a meteorologist is literally looking at the stars, predicting the weather in the future. And none of us has condemned that person to hell. We literally get our clothes prepared by somebody who is predicting the future. But if it doesn't fit outside of that, you're a dreamer, you're a soothsayer, and this is some foolishness. It's just common sense. And we keep canceling common sense in our theology. And this frustrating conversation is pissing me off because Christians gotta stop being so damn stupid. We literally gotta stop canceling stuff that benefits our evangelism and our messaging. It is stop being dumb. We just gotta wake up. This is so, why are we even talking about being this stupid in Christianity? Canceling stuff that you can actually use to benefit you. Hey, Christians, stop the dumbness. Stop being common sense illiterate. Wake up and be smarter than this. I'm sorry. That was a tangent.
Yo.
I apologize.
Nah. AT&T, didn't you have something about astrology in the Bible that you've talked about? Like how, we try to demonize astrology today. You can't use that terminology. Didn't you point out there were some astrologists in the Bible that we've upheld? Will you tell us about that?
Yeah, like the wise men followed the star to find Jesus. So I don't understand how we act like astrology is not within the biblical text or within the culture of the canon when they literally followed a star. I don't understand.
Tierney, don't get me started, because Daniel is one of the magicians. He's a soothsayer. He's just God is stupid. Like the soothsayer means a truth teller. He tells the truth. Like, why do we do this to ourselves? Like,
So I have
with all of the magicians. Like, it's
So I have a thought.
Go ahead.
First, if I were to become a dentist, I'd call myself the toothsayer. Second, I'm waiting for the.
We're gonna start charging you.
He needs $1 for those, just like the dollar jar.
For real.
My cup overfloweth. So I'm thinking about, like, there's a difference between seeing a real life person do something in the present moment versus having it written down in a narrative that can be controlled. So, like, what's written down in the Bibles, translated, canonized, bound in a leather-bound book, that isn't as threatening because it's not, there's the experience that people have typically is the experience that's handed to them. And then they're told how to feel about it. And they're told, well, this happened, and then this means this, and this means this. But if you're to see somebody do it in person, live, then there's no control over that narrative in the moment. There's no control over what people are feeling, what they take away from it. And so I think, like, even if as we're talking about, when the same things that happen throughout the Bible, throughout the Hebrew scriptures, throughout the New Testament happen today, the church can't control that narrative with as tight a vice grip. And so it's threatening because it's out of the church's ability to manipulate. But what happens in the Bible isn't threatening because it can be morphed and made into whatever the church wants it to be.
Mm-hmm. I got another one. Anybody ever been made to feel guilty about using the word luck?
Yes, I'm not lucky. I'm blessed.
It's blessed. A blessing.
Luck is the root of Lucifer. And don't connect me to Lucifer. I didn't get lucky. I got blessed. The Lord blessed me. Don't tell me I was lucky. God dog it. I'm a blessed Savior.
I mean, luck can't come from God. Like, luck can't come from heaven.
LUC is the derivative of Lucifer. It is not. Yeah, so no, that's not how that works.
Okay. T, go ahead.
I have a thought, but I don't know if it's like language or if I'm getting into ritual. So, like, I'm just going to throw it out there. And if this is the wrong show, just let me know. So I'm thinking about chakras. And so, you know how people be on Instagram talk about chakras ain't God, horoscopes ain't God, sage ain't God, and all this stuff ain't God. And if you look at the 7 chakras, there are biblical examples of how each of those things are, connected to the divine and connected to how you affect your life or whatnot. And so the way that we control language and telling people not to say not to talk about your throat chakra, but to say that there's power in the tongue. Like, are those not the same thing? For you to say that life and death is in your tongue, but you can't say that you have a throat. Like, you can't acknowledge the fact that there are 7 chakras that line up with the things that are in the biblical text. Like, I just don't. I'm confused.
So what you just helped me with, Tierney, is the church also has a problem with synonyms.
That's the whole point. A lot of this stuff is synonymous. That's the whole point.
Yeah,
of the conversation.
we don't like
synonyms without sin, Curvance.
Okay. So I guess this is helping me understand that the church has canceled the class of language arts because synonyms and homonyms are something all of us learned about. And just because I use a different version of the same term, it can be canceled in church if it doesn't have a spiritual derivative. So I think we're dealing with a drastically different problem because the church only allows 1 or 2 terms for everything that they want to use, everything that they want to control, everything that they want to power. And if you come up with a different term for it that has the same kind of derivative, same kind of context, but is more global and not, that's what it is. The church does not like global communication.
Because we want to, because the
like regional cultural communication. And if that changes, we don't like it.
Because the people who control the language have the power. So we need to control what you say so we can maintain control over you by controlling what you say.
But how does that create control though?
It's elitism in it. It's like, we are Christian. We say these words in our elite bubble of how we talk about things. We have the same language that is mainstream amongst us. Not y'all. We don't want what y'all got. We have our own way on saying this because we are elites. We are above. We are better.
Yeah, but I'm trying to reach the masses. So how is that? That don't even go together.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, not everybody.
And
only a certain few getting in, Ross.
Right.
Go ahead, Curvant. I mean, go ahead, Grayson.
Wow, there's nothing similar about us. And I mean, at least the kind of Christianity that we deal with mostly in the US of A, like, it doesn't benefit slave owners to inform and reach the masses. It benefits them to corral people into easily controlled categories. And one way to control people is to control the language they can or can't use. So somewhere along the way from Africa to Alabama, across the Atlantic, all of these gods and tribes and ways of being had to be killed off so that there wouldn't be any community, there wouldn't be any connection, and so there wouldn't be any revolt. I mean, there were, but the goal was to kill the language, kill the practice, kill the culture, and eventually kill the spirit within the person, because there's no better laborer than a laborer who doesn't know they're being oppressed.
I want to say, I was almost to the place where up until this season, you all have always done one episode that makes me want to away from Christianity. And I was going through this season thinking, maybe this season is the one time that I'm going to stay connected. And this is the episode in this season that has got me so frustrated, because we are now realizing more and more that Christianity and slavery are parallel. And this is frustrating to me because how we control our communication is totally juxtaposed to our overall mission to reach everybody. But you're saying that the cancel culture of our communication is to marginalize the people who are not in the mainstream of our context. That's frustrating, y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. T?
Okay, y'all. So my brain is working now. Like, thinking about this in terms of synonyms versus thinking about it in terms of language, like, really like helped me. So shout out to all the people who weird and brains work like mine. So I was thinking about since they were talking about it in the chat too, like sage and incense and, the clearing out of spirits. And I just remember my grandma laying oil on the doorpost and kicking demons out her house. And I don't understand what the difference is. If I can sage my house for all the bad spirits to go away, and my grandma put oil on the doorpost and kicked them out her front door, is we not doing the same thing?
So I think
oil is the Christian sage.
And so you're getting into rituals now.
Right? I know, so I'm gonna shut up.
We're gonna do an episode on rituals in a couple of weeks. But yes, absolutely.
So I think if the root of it is if again in our US of A context, because Christianity is global, the center of Christianity is in the global South. The average Christian is an African or an Asian person, not a me. But in our context, the goal of Christianity and as a tool was to make white people money. People who used to be European who decided to call themselves white so that they could then call the Africans black, lump them all together, create a binary, and oppress people. So I think the difference is when white people discover that they can make money off of the oils, such as this essential oil that I have bottled, and there are entire multi-level marketing schemes run by people named Brenda in suburbs and rural areas of Montana, then it's not bad because it is in line with what the goal was from the very beginning. The goal was to create a white god so that white people could get money. So sage suddenly becomes marketable when enough white people discover that it smells nice and drives away evil spirits. Essential oils become marketable and not bad when white people discover that you can put them in a diffuser and make Brenda feel less bad about herself. So like, I think it's probably just capitalism, but that's just my thoughts.
Yes. All right. So we gotta wrap it up, and we're gonna continue the rest of this in the after party with the live virtual audience. But I want to say this real quick because there were a couple in here when we were talking about Lucifer and how luck comes from Lucifer. Josh Carpenter had such a mic drop comment. He said that Lucifer came from God, but nobody wants to talk about that. So that's another one, right? And then Autumn, a great one. She said ancestors is a term that Christianity is trying to cancel. But then we talk about having a cloud of witnesses. And the cloud of witnesses are our ancestors. Jesus is our ancestor. Huh? And then if I were to say this morning, I got up, I kneeled before my bed, I bowed my head, I closed my eyes, and I just spent time in dialogue with God, and I said that was a great moment of meditation. That would piss some Christians off because I said meditation instead of prayer. Canceling language. Like, why can a person meditate if they are communing with God? So when we had this meetup earlier this week, this was the one thing that somebody brought up. It was their concern, their question. Like, but what's the root of it? Like, what's the intent behind it? And there's a Bible story that I'll leave with this, where somebody is accusing Jesus of doing work on behalf of Satan. And Jesus is like, but the stuff that I'm doing is actually helping people, is bringing wholeness to people. It is lifting people up. It is encouraging people. Would it make sense for me to work on behalf of Satan and produce a result that actually pushes back against Satan's agenda? If somebody is meditating or they are talking about the ancestors in a way that helps them draw closer to God, that helps them to have a spirit of God that resides with them, right? Just because they use language that you wouldn't use doesn't mean that they're doing something evil. What is the fruit of what they're doing? What's the fruit of that meditation? Because some people pray silly prayers. I don't care if you call it prayer or meditation. I want to know what's the result? What's the goal of that activity? Forget what you call it. What are you getting out of it is the question. But we get so caught up on the language that we just forget what it's all supposed to be about.
Well, Christian, Psalms 1 actually says his delight is in the law of the Lord. And here it is, in that law, should he meditate day and night.
You in the book, Doc. You in the book. Okay, we gotta go.
In the Bible.
Hold up, we gotta go. So thank you everybody on the podcast platforms. We're going to continue this conversation with the live virtual audience. But shout out to everybody who's listening. Come back next time. We'll continue this conversation of Christian cancel culture and how we are applying it now to critical race theory. We'll see you next time.
Come back next time. I won't be here. I ain't coming back.
All right, we'll see you next time. Holy smokes, cigars and spirituality. All right. So see, I knew once we started really getting into it, like it was gonna start bringing up some stuff for y'all. Go ahead, Grayson.
I gotta hop off because the family's calling. But this has been fun, everybody.
Go ahead.
Love y'all.
So my question: do y'all have any other examples of Christianity canceling?
Hey man, stop talking to me, man. Cancel me. I don't want to talk to you no more. I'm not doing this no more. This is you brought conversation on purpose. I don't like it. I don't like being frustrated this early in the morning. I don't like it at all.
T, what about you? Are you mad too?
I mean, I'm not mad because, you know, like I know these things and like part of it, like going through seminary make you to question whether you want to be Christian or not before you finish the first year. So I've been there and asked those questions. And so now it's just kind of like, why don't we tell more people these things? Why do the people not use their brains? I don't understand. So that's kind of where I am in my phase of life, is asking people why they don't use their brains.
So, and I appreciate that. Like a lot of people are in that place of just trying to figure out, you know, where do I sit with Christianity? Do I want to be a part of it? And unfortunately, because of the way Christianity was presented to many of us, it's very hard for people to stay connected. That doesn't mean Christianity at its core is negative, because I believe the core of Christianity is the greatest commandment. I believe that's how Jesus intended for it to be. So I'm trying to get Christianity back to its original intent and not what we made it out to be, not how it was whitewashed and used to colonize, but talking about how Jesus was trying to use it to bring people together, not make people the same, but help people to appreciate our differences. And that could be a difference in language. It could be a simple difference in language.
Yeah, but Smith, you're dealing with Aramaic, you're dealing with Hebrew, you're dealing with Greek, we're dealing with English. Shouldn't it just be common sense to know that language in its versatile state would require us to hear it different ways based off of people's different perspectives of the definitions? That's just common sense if you're going to reach the masses. There is only one word in every language that I know never changes, and that word is no. Outside of no, everything else can be translated to give you a different perspective in a different language or a different point of view. If that is common sense in the marketplace, if that's common sense in life, if that's common sense in love, if that's common sense in relationships, how is it not common sense in Christianity?
Yeah, because Christianity has created its own type of common sense, and it's only common within Christian spaces. And going back to what T said, it's elitism. Whatever reality we have created in Christianity, that becomes the standard. That's what it is. We've created a reality with our language, and we've made that the standard by which we judge everybody else's language. So now if somebody uses a synonym that doesn't align with the language that we have prioritized, somehow that's blasphemous. Somehow that's heretical. We've established language for God that says he and him. So if you refer to God in any other type of gender specific language that isn't relegated to he and him, somehow that's heretical. It's like, people, let's like just just breathe for a second and think about it. Just breathe.
So it's not heretical to actually attach a gender to an omnipotent God.
So language creates reality. Like, so having a gender term to refer to God, like, it helps us to relate to God. It helps a lot of people to relate to God because it's
get what
easier
you're
to
saying,
relate to another person.
But you did it to help you communicate in your understanding. That's my premise behind it. It's a communication tool.
Yeah.
But now using what you use to help you communicate understanding to marginalize somebody else's communication of understanding. Like you use what you needed, and now when somebody else needs to use it the same way, you discredit their need for the usage for their relationship and understanding. It's a total negation of, once I got it, you got to receive it the way I got it, and if you receive it any other way, I cancel you.
It is a total negation of other people's lived experiences. It goes completely against the one rule that we have in this community, man. Everybody has a different lived experience, and the language that they use may help them to connect in a way that it doesn't help you, but then your language helps you to connect in a way that it doesn't help them. And so my whole point in us having this conversation, I was hoping that we would at least walk away from this conversation today understanding that you can have your preferred language that you use, but don't try to dictate everybody else's language based on what works for you. That's all. I'm not trying to get you to change your language. Just stop trying to change everybody else's because you don't feel comfortable with it. Just stop. T, go ahead.
I think this goes into the both and conversation, right? As opposed to the binary. So it's like, it's in traditional church spaces, is Christian or other. So it's use our language or you're an other, you're an outsider. All the people who didn't grow up in church and don't understand all the euphemisms and the languages and the things, the catchphrases and all that other stuff. You're other, you're not like us, which plays into that elitism and that binary. And so when you think about it from the perspective of these things are similar, we just use different language to describe them. It gets you to live more so in the spectrum. It's like, just because you do it different don't mean what you're doing is wrong or what I'm doing is right. It just means that we can coexist and do them differently and together at the same time. And so,
Yeah, I have never understood.
This conversation is so frustrating.
I'm gonna frustrate you more right here. I've never understood the battle between Baptists and Apostolics about the language that we use at baptism. No, you got to baptize in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. No, you got to baptize in the name of Jesus. It's just language. Like, ain't Jesus the Son? Why are we fighting over that? Like, if you want to baptize in the name of Jesus, baptize in the name of Jesus. If you want to baptize in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, baptize in that.
But as a preacher, one of our main jobs is to communicate to multiple different types of people. So one of the things they teach us is to make the Bible contextual. So I have to take it out of antiquity and bring it into postmodernity. So I got to say some stuff that makes it make sense in the. If I were to use that rule, do you know that most times we could only preach to storefront churches and traditional groups of people? If we can't do that as preachers, why should we be able to do that as parishioners? And that's just problematic for me because if I don't translate some of this stuff, if I don't make it more modern, then it doesn't meet and reach everybody, right?
Can I push back on that a little bit? So like, I don't feel like we're called to everybody. Like,
no, I'm not saying we're those two different things.
But like, you pastor the people you pastor, right? So every church has its own way of doing things. Every church has its own way of singing the same hymn. Every church has its own way, like the things that are different about each church, right? So you build
I'm not talking about that part though.
But
I'm talking about how we just communicate in general.
Go ahead, but T, go ahead, finish what you were saying.
Yeah, but I was just saying, so like I feel like the same way that the people you're called to understand like the language that you use in your sermons or whatever, I feel like each church and each person who embodies the pulpit is doing that in their own way, right? So first of all, you got to bring your whole self to the pulpit, which means that some of the things that you do, some of the euphemisms you use, everyone might not be familiar with, but trying to make sure that you're reaching the people you're supposed to reach, as opposed to focusing on trying to reach the most amount of people, or always trying to make sure you're reaching everybody. I don't know. I feel like when you focus on like the people that you're called to, you have a better conversion rate, for lack of a better word.
So I understand what both of y'all are saying, right? But because you're not called to everybody, but some people are called to particular people who need different language. So like I'm not called to everybody, but the people I'm called to, I use language that will help those particular people to whom I'm called relate, that might not fit into the small box that my tradition has created. So both of you are saying, both of you are making perfect sense. We're not called to everybody. At the same time, we also have to recognize the people that we're called to may need it in a different way than the traditions that we've always practiced in.
Right.
So there are two questions. I'm gonna respond to Ariana. Ariana, you said, so what language am I going to use when I baptize Pamela? I think I got to baptize Pamela like in the name of Mother God, Jesus, and the ancestors. I don't think she'll accept anything other than that, to be perfectly honest. But then there was another question, and T, if you'll hit this one real quick. Blake wants to know, are there seminaries that are biased to a certain doctrine or theology?
Yes, absolutely. All seminaries are not created equal. So you have certain seminaries that are fundamentalists, very, very conservative. They're preaching and teaching things like some of them don't even allow women to take preaching classes, right? So you're on completely different end of the spectrum than what we do here. Holy smokes. And then you have other seminaries that are more inclusive. They have more liberative theology. They're gonna promote and you're going to read about womanist, Latinx theologies, feminist theologies, those types of things, as opposed to only living in the white Eurocentric ways of knowing and being about Christianity and how it arrived to us in America. So just like you have both ends of the spectrum for all other parts of life, you got both ends of the spectrums for seminary, like, and they're not all created equal.
You know what would be cool? If when we do baptism, we ask people what would be most meaningful to you, like when we baptize you. Because I know for Pamela, ancestors would be a part of it. And again, Jesus is an ancestor, y'all. So chill, just take a chill pill. Some people would feel more connected if we refer to God as Father in a baptism. Some people might feel more connected if we refer to God as Mother. If we refer to God as universe, another language piece, because Christians hate when people of faith refer to the universe. We hate that. Yeah. And Mom just dropped the point. Southern Baptist seminaries are a different type of animal. You're absolutely right.
I like aminal.
My mouth is afflicted today. Ross, before we get off, do you want to share any more of your frustration as we end this out today?
No, I don't like that. I think you strategically do this every season to have one episode to frustrate me. But I just think I'm praying that in this next generation, and that the more that we've understood, the more that technology has helped us reach people, the more that we have become more, I'm hoping, accepting of different perspectives and points of view, that we do something to eliminate our marginal communication and our limited language, because it will definitely do a lot to heal the people that we've hurt in the past. It will also do a lot to reach the people that we're really called to. And it will also do a major portion to create common sense in our boundaries, simply because many of us have, if we admit it, have become victims of our own salvation. So I think this conversation is necessary because we're canceling stuff that we need to subscribe to, and sometimes we stop subscribing to stuff.
Dang, I didn't hit that. The last part was breaking up, but listen, this is what I want everybody to walk away with. Use the language that helps you to connect. Do it in a way that helps you to love God, love your neighbor, and love yourself. If you use language that doesn't necessarily align with the tradition from which you've come, or even the tradition that you're still currently in, use the language that helps you to connect. If the traditional church language works for you, use the language. I'm not telling people don't use the language. I'm saying use it, but also give other people the freedom to use the language that helps them to connect. So if somebody wants to meditate, let them meditate. If somebody uses the term luck, let them use the term luck. If somebody wants to refer to God as mother, let them. Stop fighting over language. If somebody feels connected to the ancestors, you do too. Don't you feel connected to Jesus? Just let people live. I honestly believe that a lot of the issues that we have in church and beyond are rooted in us not being able to mind our own damn business. So that's the message today. Mind your business. Love y'all. We'll see y'all next time. Holy smoke, cigars and spirituality.